In 1928, prominent businessman and civic leader Edgar H. Perry and his family moved into their new home, constructed in 1926 by well-known Dallas architect Hal Thompson. The property, just north of the current Hancock Golf Course, was situated on land Perry had acquired along both sides of Red River Street, a portion of which is currently the Hancock Shopping Center. The Perry residence was designed in the Italian Renaissance style, unusual for Texas. The two-story house featured a central mass flanked by two pavilions, a roof with terracotta half-barrel tiles, an arched entry, Corinthian columns, a grand staircase, and elegant wrought iron detail. The Perrys lived there for 16 years, after which the estate changed hands several times. In 1947, it was the site of St. Mary's Academy and a chapel. Nuns' quarters and classroom buildings were then added. Two private schools then operated on the estate, and due to financial challenges, the last school was forced to defer maintenance, and the buildings and grounds suffered deterioration. Clark Lyda acquired the estate in 2011 and researched the original construction of the house. With the help of Austin architect John Voles, he began an 8-month restoration of the house, which included the roof, gutters, flashing, chimneys, cornice, and all French doors, exterior stucco, interior plaster, wrought iron lighting fixtures, leaded glass windows, the original elevator, and even the dumbwaiter. Peeling paint, scarred wood, stained marble floors, and the original stair hall chandelier were all restored, as were the outside steps, fountains, and plantings. Mr. Lyda attended school at the estate and has a personal attachment to the property, which is shown in his respect for the original design and materials throughout the entire restoration process. He has preserved an important piece of Austin history and is exploring economically sustainable uses for the property that will maintain and preserve this unique site. The Heritage Society presents a Merit Award for Preservation to Perry Estate, LLC for the Commodore Perry Estate. Early on the morning of June 8, 2008, Texans were shocked to learn that the Texas governor's mansion was the victim of a tragic arson fire. Following heroic firefighting efforts, the mansion survived but suffered extensive fire and water damage. Notably, the fire charred the iconic front columns and destroyed the roof. The fire occurred during a deferred maintenance project, so not only was the mansion vacant, but the historic furnishings, art collection, and most doors and windows were off-site and undamaged. The grand staircase and fireplace mantels, protected for construction, also survived. Salvage of potentially reusable historic materials and construction of a temporary roof and shoring proceeded while the project went through a major change of scope to address the fire damage. The post-fire work included painstaking restoration of the exterior and interior spaces of the mansion, using salvaged material and reconstruction of missing or damaged features. Construction of a modestly scaled addition to the back of a historic 1914 wing provided the space necessary to meet accessibility requirements, expand the catering kitchen, and offer additional living space in the private quarters. The project is seeking leadership in energy and environmental design and Austin Energy Green Building accreditation by incorporating energy-saving features that feature a geothermal HVAC system and solar hot water panels on the addition. The State Preservation Board served as a project manager for the restoration, while the Texas Historical Commission assisted with the post-fire salvage of historic materials and oversaw the project under a state archaeological landmark permit. The Heritage Society thanks the State Preservation Board for the meticulous efforts in preservation so that Texas can remain a proud steward of this state treasure. The Heritage Society of Austin presents a Merit Award for Restoration to the Texas State Preservation Board for the Governor's Mansion. Designer and restaurateur Mickey Spencer was finishing her last project, Swan Dive, when she happened upon an abandoned drugstore in Elgin. Jones Drugstore, which dated from the 1920s, closed its doors in 1975, with everything still on the shelves. To her delight, Spencer found a treasure trove of vintage display cases, cash registers, medicine bottles, and even a book of old prescriptions, all of which she quickly purchased. An idea for a new restaurant began to take shape in her imagination, built around the wonderful collection of pharmacy-related items. An eatery that would sell fresh-made food and drinks as cures, as well as locally made grocery items from the antique shelving that once displayed medicines. Spencer, who is the proprietor of the Eastside Showroom, brought in the restaurant chef, Sonia Coate, as her partner, as well as friends Greg and Jade Matthews and Wilson Brandt. They soon found an available space on East 11th Street, which, as luck would have it, was formerly a pharmacy established in the 1920s by Doc Young, believed to be Austin's first African-American pharmacist. His daughter, Yvette Turner, now in her 80s, still owns the building, which has been vacant since the 1970s. Much of her family still lives nearby and can enjoy a fountain soda, just as Yvette did when her father was behind the counter. After nearly a year of painstaking renovations, done mostly by Spencer and her partners, Hillside Pharmacy opened in March 2012. All-electric mechanical, interior and exterior fixtures and facade were designed and built to house the vintage look of Hillside Pharmacy. The restaurant owners retained the name Hillside in reference to the history of the building, and that word pharmacy is spelled that way to remind customers of the local growers who supply their farm-to-table menu. Thanks to the vision and hard work of this intrepid team, the old drugstore on the hilltop at East 11th Street has been brought back to life in a new kind of pharmacy. The Heritage Society of Austin presents a Merit Award for Adaptive Use to Mickey Spencer, Greg and Jade Matthews, Sonia Coate, and Wilson Brandt for the Hillside Pharmacy. Originally built as separate structures by Matthew Hopkins in the 1850s, the Hopkins House is one of the earliest homesteads in the neighborhood known as Old West Austin. The structures, connected over the years to form one house, were each built with rubble construction, wooden forms filled with stone, straw, and mud to create the walls. After 60 years of ownership by one family, the house was sold in 2009 to the current owners, Sarah and Andrew McCullough. But the decades prior to their purchase had not been kind to the old Hopkins house. It suffered neglect of its historic features and received several non-historic additions. The McCulloughs were determined to return the Hopkins house to its original historic character, despite both of their busy work schedules and raising two young children. The McCulloughs first had non-historic additions removed, including a dilapidated screened-in porch. Craftsmen then repaired damaged rubble walls as well as the chimney using original materials and construction techniques. When builders discovered the cistern buried just beyond the house, they decided to carefully excavate, restore, and reinstall it as a feature of the renovation. Clearly visible from the floor of the kitchen addition at the rear of the building, the cistern now functions as a rainwater collection system. Further green features were added, including a high-efficiency HVAC system, LED lighting, and a system to generate solar power for the entire home. Reclaimed wood and other sustainable materials were used whenever possible. The Heritage Society applauds Sarah and Andrew McCullough for not only restoring a key property in the history of Old West Austin, but also their efforts to introduce modern, high-efficiency standards while maintaining the integrity of this historic home. The Heritage Society presents a Merit Award of Stewardship to Sarah and Andrew McCullough for the Hopkins House. Established in 1892 as a training camp for the Texas Volunteer Guard, Camp Mabry is the third oldest active military post in Texas. During World War I, a cooperative agreement between the War Department and the university presidents created schools to train mechanics and other support personnel. In Austin, the War Department accepted the University of Texas offer to train 2,500 men at the Camp Mabry School of Automotive Mechanics, or SAM. Buildings 10 and 11 served as two of the original 6 barracks constructed for SAM. These structures were later used by the Department of Public Safety from the 1930s to the 1950s, after which Building 10 became the headquarters for the Adjutant General's Department. More recently, these buildings have housed various administrative offices. In 2009, a major rehabilitation effort was undertaken on the two former barracks, with historic preservation standards in mind and the help of historic photographs. The most important exterior work included the restoration of original door and window openings and Austin common brick surfaces to reflect the original 1918 appearance. A full-width two-story porch was reconstructed on Building 11. A 1960s-era addition connecting the buildings was removed, and masonry walls and openings were restored on both structures. Inside, the architects wanted to replicate a sense of the original barracks and the openness of space. Original structural wood columns were exposed, with all their imperfections to tell the story of their evolution as the building's functions changed. At the same time, they wanted to create a modern layer that was compatible with, but clearly distinguished from the historic fabric. Color selections were based on colors appropriate for historic military construction. The Heritage Society of Austin presents a Merit Award for Rehabilitation to the Texas Military Forces Adjutant General's Department for Camp Mabry Buildings 10 and 11. In December 2011, the Austin City Council adopted the Downtown Austin Plan as its vision of growth for downtown Austin. Among its stated goals is a call for the city to maintain a beloved fabric of historic places, buildings, and landscapes that celebrate the unique journey Austin has taken over the past 200 years. The plan, drafted by McCann Adams Studios, is the product of intense public participation over the course of several years. It draws attention to threats posed by new development to historic buildings and districts, and urges the city to intensify its role in managing downtown preservation. While the plan promotes urban density, it does not shy away from sounding the alarm where Austin is at risk in its efforts to preserve Austin's unique history. The plan outlines specific steps to advance preservation, including updating the city's more than 30-year-old comprehensive cultural resources survey and preservation plan. To allow for new development in preservation-sensitive districts, the plan suggests form-based development to protect and complement the unique character of historic buildings and districts. Further, it reimagines East 6th Street as a destination for a wide variety of visitors by improving the pedestrian environment, diversifying activities, and protecting its historic identity. For historic property owners and tenants, the plan calls on the city to create a preservation funding source and other incentives to encourage and facilitate preservation projects. Also included are district plans, highlighting the need for preservation in distinctive areas on the periphery of the city's core. To implement these points, the plan suggests augmenting sources to the city's Historic Preservation Office and the Historic Landmark Commission. The Heritage Society applauds the City of Austin for embracing a vision that advances the cause of historic preservation and for recognizing the importance of preservation to our downtown's vitality. The Heritage Society presents a Merit Award for Stewardship to the City of Austin for adopting the Downtown Austin Plan. In 1971, when Austin didn't extend much past Anderson Lane, Ray and Frances Stanish opened their restaurant on North Burnett Road adjacent to the Brentwood neighborhood. They called it Top Notch, reflecting their high expectations and standards. It quickly became a favorite for families who came to enjoy their hamburgers, fried chicken, and other goodies, which could be served inside the restaurant or in your car by one of their car hops. Top Notch remained in the Stanish family even after Ray's death in 2004, at which time son James Ray, together with Frances, took the reins. After James Ray passed in 2008, Frances decided it was time to retire. But she was not willing to sell this beloved local institution unless she could find a buyer who would carry on the business without changing anything. Fortunately, she found Kelly Chappelle, Jay Bunda, Chris Courtney, and Philip Santa Cruz, some of whom had grown up eating at Top Notch. They assured Frances they would honor her wishes and not change anything. They lived up to their promise. Many of the longtime staff still work at Top Notch, and the menu has been only slightly tweaked. Diners can still be served by car hops, and the dining room remains untouched with window coverings, cattle horns, and props from the movie Dazed and Confused, some scenes of which were filmed right there. Frances Stanish died in 2011, but not before she saw Top Notch pass into the hands of owners who value its history and iconic status. It is one of the few remaining untouched examples of the suburban, car-centric development of Burnett Road in the 1950s through the 70s. What have the new owners found to be their favorite thing about running Top Notch? It's all the great stories their customers have to tell about the restaurant, and their delight in seeing it's just like it's always been. The Heritage Society presents a Merit Award for maintaining an Austin cultural icon to Kelly Chappelle, Jay Bunda, Chris Courtney, and Philip Santa Cruz for Top Notch Hamburgers.